Parshas Vayechi-Chazak. We're here already. I remember saying when we passed Simchas Torah that we were starting Parshas Bereshis and say before you turn around, the Avos come and the Avos go. And we have a lot to learn from the Avos. And here we are, Shabbos Chazak. In addition to that, tonight is also Asar B'Teves. Tomorrow's the fast of Asar B'Teves. So we're going to try to just get in a little bit about all these inyanim in the allotted time that we have. Chazal tell us at the beginning of this week's Parsha, Parshas Vayechi, Lama Parsha Zu Stuma. Why is this Parsha, if you take a look at a Sefer Torah, between Parshas Vayigash and Parshas Vayechi, there's a very, very small space. Usually there's a little bit of a wider space. There's a space just of like one letter. There's a very small space between Parshas Vayigash and Vayechi. So Chazal tell us, Lama Parsha Zu Stuma. Why is this Parsha so closed? Why is it enclosed to the Parsha before it? Lefi Shekeva and Shenifter Yaakov. Once Yaakov Avinu was Nifter, Nistamu Eineihem, that what happened to Klal Yisrael, that their eyes, V'libam Shal Yisrael, the hearts of the Yidden, were sort of closed from what? Mitzoras Hashibud Shehizchilu L'Shabdam. That once Yaakov Avinu was Nifter, that it's, so to speak, the eyes and the hearts of Klal Yisrael, Vice does from here that they were working already. And we see that once Yaakov Avinu was Nifter, that what happened? They couldn't manage with the Shibud anymore. It was hard for them to bear it. It was hard for them to take it. So if one is medayik in this Lashon Chazal, it seems from here that it does not say that once Yaakov Avinu was Nifter, the Shibud came on them. And that's why Nistamu Eineihem. What it says is, the Lashon Chazal is that the Nistamu Eineihem came from the fact that Yaakov Avinu was Nifter. That was a bigger problem. That bothered them more than the Etzem Shibud of Mitzrayim. The Dagish is on the fact that Tiras Yaakov caused that the Stima Eineihem V'liban Shal Yisrael, more than the actual Tzaris themselves. And as long as Yaakov Avinu was alive, the Tzaris could not overcome the spirit of Klal Yisrael. In the schus of Yaakov Avinu, in some schus of Yaakov Avinu, whatever tzaris they had, that Pari was starting to make them work, and whatever other tzaris they had on Mitzrayim, they were able, it never overcame them. Their spirit could never be overcome. Once Yaakov Avinu was Nifter, the tzaris did overcome Klal Yisrael. So what's the explanation of that? And just another small question, the Nesivos Shalom also asks, okay, so Yaakov Avinu was Nifter, but we know that Yosef was still around. So whatever they were missing when Yaakov was Nifter, why couldn't Yosef fill that gap for that period of time that they shouldn't have that trouble? Why didn't Yosef take that over? So Nesivos Shalom says a very interesting thing. He says in this Maimer Chazal, when it says Misha Nifter Yaakov, when Yaakov Avinu was Nifter, what does it mean, Dr. Nesivos Shalom? It's also telling us not just that Yaakov Avinu, that his body, physically, he was Nifter. When it says that Yaakov Avinu was Nifter, it's telling us that there was the Midah of Yaakov Avinu was now gone. Yaakov Avinu had a special Midah, and that was now gone. And that's why Klal Yisrael was lost at this time. And what was the outstanding Midah of Yaakov Avinu, Dr. Nesivos Shalom? That was a Midah of Kedusha. Like we say, Kedoshenu, Kedosh Yaakov, the Midah that Yaakov Avinu exemplified was the Midah of Kedusha. And while Yosef was a tremendous tzaddik avada, Yosef's Madrega and Yosef Midah was Zehirus from Isser, from things that were Asr. Yosef, we see that he had these Nisyonis and Mitzrayim, but those were things that were Asr, and Yosef showed us the way how to stay away from Isser. But to behave yourself in that way, to do something on a Dover Heter, Yaakov Avinu had Kedusha in Inyone Heter also. Like we said previously, we said a number of weeks ago in the Shiur, we said that Yaakov Avinu was the one who teaches us about making our daily activities kadosh. Yaakov Avinu is the one who teaches us that you could put kedusha in every aspect of your life. If you look what the Torah, what does the Torah write about Yaakov Avinu? Yaakov Avinu, we discuss in Yonim of getting married, in Yonim of raising children, in Yonim of Parnasa. That's what we discuss when we talk about Yaakov Avinu in the Torah. What Yaakov Avinu teaches us is that in every one of these things, they can all be made into Torah. They can all be made into the Ratzon Hashem. Take things of Heter, and there's a way to do Dvarim that are mutter. There's a way to do that. Yaakov Avinu, that is the lesson. That was the midah of Yaakov Avinu. That is what Yaakov Avinu stood out for. And the Be'emes is a remez to this, Zok Nesivos Shalom. And the Gemara says, Masechta Brachos, Daf Chavav, Amid Beis. We learned it at the beginning of the Daf Yomi. Already it's almost a year and a half ago, how time is flying. But the Gemara says that Yaakov Avinu tikein tfilas arvis. Yaakov Avinu was mesakein tfilas arvis. As actually the Gemara talks about it, whether he was, how was mesakein, whatever. But the Gemara there says, Yaakov Avinu tikein tfilas arvis, utfilas arvis rishus. And from that lashon of the Gemara, the Nesivos Shalom's medayik, the diuk that we want to say over here, that's what Yaakov Avinu did. Yaakov Avinu took a ma'ariv, tfilas arvis rishus, something which you don't necessarily, I'm going to say in quotation, have to do. And Yaakov Avinu took that and made it into a davar kadosh. Yaakov Avinu is the one who takes in Yoni Rishus and makes them dvarim shebekdusha. And that is what Yaakov Avinu did with his whole life. Chazal tell us, Gemara Masechta Shabbos, Daf Kuf Yud Ches Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Kol hama'aneg es haShabbos, and Be'emes we spoke about this once before, and we said that you notice that it doesn't say Kol hamisanek b'Shabbos. It doesn't say anybody who eats 10 portions of cholent, sleeps bagel during the winter on Shabbos. That would be misaneg, right? That would be taking care of yourself. Kol hama'aneg es haShabbos. Anybody who does a real oinig for Shabbos, do the right things on Shabbos, what happens? Noisnim loy nachala belim itzarim. If you do the right things on Shabbos, you're promised what? A nachala belim itzarim, without boundaries. Shenemar, what does the pasuk say? Im toshem mishabbos raglecha v'achalticha nachlas Yaakov avicha. That I will give you what? You will get the reward nachlas Yaakov Avinu. And what is nachlas Yaakov? From this pasuk it seems nachlas Yaakov is belim itzarim. When we say nachlas Yaakov, we mean a reward, something good. If you do the right things on Shabbos, you learn on Shabbos, you speak the right things on Shabbos, you do the right things on Shabbos, you're promised a reward belim itzarim. There's no boundary to the word, and that is nachlas Yaakov Avicha. So why is that the nachla of Yaakov? Why dafka Yaakov? So Zok the Nesivos Shalom, a beautiful pshat with what we just said. He said Yaakov Avinu was the one who expanded the boundaries of Kedusha. Before Yaakov Avinu, what did Kedusha mean? Kedusha meant that if something was usher, you didn't do it. If something was not right, you didn't do it. But what did Yaakov Avinu do? Yaakov Avinu took that and expanded it to include even Devarim of Rishus. Yaakov Avinu told us not just things that are usher you don't do. Yaakov Avinu is the one who expanded that and said even in the things that are mutter in life, even in the things that are okay to do, there's a way to do it. Your everyday activities are turned into mitzvahs and ruchnias. That's what Yaakov Avinu did. Yaakov Avinu expanded Kedusha. So now the pasuk is beautiful. Mida keneged mida. Yaakov Avinu is the one who received the reward, nachala belim itzarim. So the reward that Yaakov Avinu gets is also a reward without boundaries. And that's why the pasuk says, nachala belim itzarim. What is that? That's nachlas Yaakov Avicha. That's the bracha of Yaakov Avinu, a bracha without boundaries. So when a Yid says in Nesivos Shalom, when a Yid behaves like Yaakov Avinu, and he brings Kedusha into his regular activities, like we see Yaakov Avinu did, in his marriage, with his children, in his parnasa, if he makes a Kiddush Hashem when he goes to work, Yes, it's of course regular activity. You walk down the street, you talk to people. But how does a Yid walk down the street? How does a Yid talk to people? Does his mouth just keep running? Does he keep talking Lashon Hara? Does he say things just because maybe they're mutter to say? Or does he put Kedusha? Or does he separate himself? No, we're not like other people. We live up to a higher standard. Then Hashem repays you in kind also. You're Zoicha to Oz Tisanagal Hashem. What is that? Nachlas Yaakov Avicha. And what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu give you? What is that Nachla? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you the wherewithal to face any tzaras. He gives you more capability than really you think you would have. Beruchnius and begashmius. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you more power to face any tzaras that may come up in your life. And when you have a problem, you're zoicha to feel that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with you. That's what the Nesivos Shalom says. So that's Pshat in the Maimer Chazal that we began with. We said that there was the Patira of Yaakov more than the Shibud that was Nistamu Einei Shal Yisrael. We said that the Patira of Yaakov was the thing that affected Klal Yisrael more. What does that mean? When Yaakov was nifter, and this midah of Yaakov Avinu, of Kedusha, and things of Heter, left Klal Yisrael, then they became Meshubed to the Tzaras. They became Meshubed to the ways of Mitzrayim, and they weren't protected from the Shibud Mitzrayim anymore. They didn't have that Oz Tisanagal Hashem, Nachlas Yaakov Avinu, where Hashem gives you the reward, the capability, that now you can face anything. So we asked, how about Yosef? So even though Yosef was alive, but the midah of Yosef only took us as far as staying away from dvarim that are asur. But the schus of the kedusha of Heter, that we didn't have. That only Yaakov Avinu had. And that is something, the reward for that is something that gives you the strength from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to face anything. So now, when Yaakov Avinu was nifter, Nistmu Einei Shal Yisrael, they didn't feel the confidence inside. They weren't able to see with their eyes that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right there with them. This Shabbos, we finished reading, like we said, we started at the beginning of Chumash Bereshis. This Shabbos, we finished reading about the Avos. We've learned together so many lessons. We've learned together for all these weeks the ways of the Avos and the Imois. And now we just try to put it all together. We can't just let it go by and we don't incorporate some of the many lessons that we learned over the past few months. And what do we say at the end of this week's laning? We say, Chazak, Chazak, v'nis chazek. And I can't help but thinking always, when you finish a Chumash, you're asking for Chazak, Chazak, v'nis chazek. We want to try to I always think we try to wrap up all the lessons and that it should give us chizuk. To learn about the chesed of Avraham Avinu, the gevura, all the lessons of Musar that we learned from the Avos, how to conduct our lives, what to do, chazak, chazak, v'nis chazek, that it shouldn't just roll off of us like slide, pass us by, like passing by in the night, that there goes Bereshis, here comes Shemois. It doesn't work that way. We're supposed to grow from it. And we're supposed to learn how to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu better. Sai bein adam lamokim, sai bein adam lachaverim. We've learned so many things. We hope that it gives us chizuk. And tomorrow, and we want the chizuk for what? We want the chizuk tomorrow. Asar b'teves. I heard, if I have another minute, I think, right? I had Asar b'teves. Someone told me an amazing word today. He said, Asar b'teves, it said, it's the only fast that we actually fast on Friday. But if it would come out on Shabbos in our calendar account, we would also fast. The Gemara says we would fast on Shabbos too. What Pshat? It says because every other fast, Tisha B'Av, Shavasa B'Tamaz, is the Chasam Sofer says is for something that happened. For something that happened, we don't fast on Shabbos. So the kasha is Asar B'Tevis, also something that happened. Zok the Chasam Sofer. I heard this over today. Chasam Sofer says that every year on Asar B'Tevis, we're being done. Is there going to be another Tisha B'Av? Is there going to be another Shavasa B'Tamaz? Are we going to suffer again another year, another Shavasa B'Tamaz, Tisha B'Av without the Beis HaMikdash? Let's take these lessons of Bereshis. Let's keep it in mind that on this Asar B'Teves tonight, tomorrow, there should be a psak that we should be able to go to Yerushalayim b'simcha, and we shouldn't have a veilus of Shavasa B'Tamaz and Tisha B'Av this coming year.